and I've just got to show you this video. It popped up on my feed. It felt like those videos by the Twitter employees before Elon Musk bought the place, where they would talk about they went to the coffee shop at Twitter and then the spa at Twitter, and they got to work at the crack of 10 and they left at 4. Tell me this video by a PSAC worker, a government worker, doesn't feel exactly like the bloated staff Twitter selfie videos before Elon Musk fired 80% of that company. Take a look at this.
We proved ourselves that we can work efficiently and more productively from home, and the fact that they're mandating us going back to work 2 days a week just doesn't make sense.
I believe that we made the transition during the pandemic to work from home. I still believe that the pandemic is not over. Going to work is risking getting sick. I feel like working at home, you are still completing your day-to-day tasks. So I think as public servants, we should have the option to choose.
Well, listen, obviously there are some good people who work for the government. I'm not saying they're all bad, but the chutzpah in demanding that they get a raise and work from home is just too much. But that's just my point of view. Let's talk to a guy who crunches the numbers for a living and who is an advocate for all taxpayers. You know who I'm talking about. It's one of our favorite guys. Franco Terrazzano joins me live from Ottawa via Skype. Franco, great to see you. What do you make of this strike?
One word comes to mind: privilege.
Yeah.
Privileged federal bureaucrats who took pay raises during the pandemic, who never had to worry about losing their job. And now they want to take billions more from taxpayers who are worried about their mortgage payments going up, who are worried about the price of gasoline, the price of ground beef. So the word that comes to mind to me, Ezra, is privilege.
Yeah. You know, you're so right. And I've probably watched 20 interviews with strikers, and there's no rage. There's no sense that they've been wronged or harmed. They're not facing massive layoffs. They're just, oh, well, you know, I don't really want to come back to work, or, oh, well, I'd like to get more. In fact, a lot of them have this strange talking point. If I get a raise, that's actually good for everyone else because their employees will have to give them raises too, because that's how it works. Like I have never heard of a more pathetic excuse for a strike in my life. There's no passion there. These folks have not been wronged. And JJ McCullough, the cheeky YouTuber from out west, he points out the flag of PSAC, these big industrial gears, as if most of these workers are toiling in some factory in dangerous conditions. They're paper pushers, and they've had a 2 or 3 year staycation during the lockdowns. I know I'm generalizing, but my God, is there any public sympathy for these strikers?
No, I don't think so. And why? I mean, why should there be? Because outside of the bubble of Ottawa, outside of those golden gates of government, people have been struggling. Now, Ezra, I'm talking fast because you fired me up with that statement that they made, saying it's going to benefit all workers.
Yeah.
Well, where do they think they're going to be getting that extra money?
Yeah.
They're going to be taking it from the pockets of their neighbors, those who work for a business, those who work for themselves, those who hire employees in their own business, right? Because they're going to have to take that money from taxpayers. And here's what's so crazy is the demands coming from these union negotiators in Ottawa who are pushing for up to a 47% compensation increase over 3 years. Up to 47% compensation increase over 3 years. Now let's talk about that private sector worker, because those demands would cost taxpayers $9.3 billion.
Yeah, that's crazy. You know, you're exactly right to say it's privilege, PSAC privilege. The privilege of never having to worry about making a budget because the government just runs a deficit. The privilege of knowing the government only gets bigger, never smaller. The privilege of having the slackest. I mean, you were telling us the other day, what's the average income of these folks? Like it's 6 figures. These are the 1%ers that they told us about. What's the average pay of a PSAC privilege worker?
The average compensation for the privileged PSAC workers who don't deserve a penny more from taxpayers. Now, I don't have PSAC specifically, but we have the entire federal bureaucracy. Are you ready for it? Let's remember, PSAC is representing the largest union. We have about 150,000 people on strike. So the average compensation of all the federal bureaucrats is $125,000. Let me give you some more numbers. And this is why people should be so fired up, okay? Because during the pandemic years, since 2020, over the last 3 years, the federal government has handed out more than 800,000 raises. Listen to that, folks. Over the last 3 years, the government has handed out over 800,000 raises. We've already know that more than 90% of all federal employees took at least one pay raise during the pandemic. The feds handed out $559 million in bonuses since 2020. The feds hired more than 31,000 new bureaucrats over the last 2 years. So here's what happened. Taxpayers paid for hundreds of thousands of pay raises, hundreds of millions in bonuses, and for tens of thousands of new employees. And now these privileged bureaucrats are going on strike, demanding to take billions more from their struggling neighbors across Canada.
That was an excerpt from the Ezra Levant Show. I'm Ezra Levant. Every weekday, I do a monologue about the topic of the day. Then I interview a fascinating guest, either in studio or via Skype. And then I read your mail, whether it's fan mail or hate mail, which is sometimes even more interesting. This is on our premium service, though, called Rebel News Plus. Go to rebelnewsplus.com. It's $8 a month or less if you buy a whole year in advance. You get my show every weeknight, plus Sheila Gunn Reid's show every week. It's called The Gun Show. It's pretty amazing. You know, we rely on you because we do not take a dime from the government. In Canada, that makes us almost unique. So please help us out and help yourself to some great journalism at rebelnewsplus.com.